Okay, I think we need to get going. Welcome to the second block. How's the two of you going? How long do you have still?
Next Monday.
Next Monday, so it's got a week and a bit, right? So you must be polishing up by now, right? Okay. Just on the first list, I had numerous requests for the quiz to be marked, and in fact, no time to mark that quiz, and you're all going to do really well. But I don't want to mark it before you submit the literature. Learning from last year, the students saw their marks and go, oh, this is easy. Did a half-baked job for the literature review, and then complained about us being tough. Right? So you will wait, but it will come. Once you've submitted your literature review, quiz one will be released. Okay. Today you are in for a treat. You will get quite a bit of understanding in terms of the strategic thinking behind asset management. And really in this country there's nobody better to stand in front of to do that. My friend Ross Ward. Ross is one of the pioneers of asset management in this country. He was co-author of the International Infrastructure Asset Manual, and also the Auckland guideline. I'm going to get Ross to give you a little bit more of a summary of his background. But the one thing that I think you can just try and observe today is, I always say to Ross, for me the thing about him that I admire the most is he can take all of this noise happening in the government and in the infrastructure sector and population growth and all of those noise coming in, and then he take out just the symphony that we need to play for asset management investment. He's very good with that. But I'll let him introduce himself a little bit further. In terms of the coverage for today, it is quite important, the two things happening today. The first one, we're going to get two exam questions out today. So, asset management, of course you need that for your next assignment, so this first lecture is quite important for that. Can you sit a little bit forward, please? If you need a plug, there's plugs in front, okay? You can come a little bit forward. If you need PowerPoints, there are PowerPoints in front. So yes, so we're looking forward to this day, and we've got 3 lectures and a nice tutorial to do, so we're going to have a fun day, enjoy it, and be interactive. Come up, difficult questions. Okay? Thank you. Ross?
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
So, I'm Ross. What can I say about myself? I'm not very good at talking about myself. I have been working for more than 40 years. I've been doing asset management consulting now for 25 years. Got involved in the very early days of it and ended up just by necessity with the people that I was working for at the time. We had very old assets, so I got good at some of the fundamental stuff, and it's just gone on from there. And I've been involved in the sector right across, and as Ken said, also involved in some national and international manual writing. I was just reflecting while we were setting up. The last time I lectured was actually at Purdue University in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Purdue is one of the largest public engineering schools in the US, particularly in construction management and stuff like that. But the thing I did play when I went there is that Neil Armstrong, the astronaut, was a graduate of Purdue. They actually have an aeronautical called Space, big engineering school, and a great longevity with all the astronauts and things like that. So it's quite an interesting place. And again, I was working with one of the professors there. They're doing asset management training in the US. So the US is really just starting to pick it up now big time. Got exactly the same problems as everybody else, and that they've got lots and lots of assets that are getting near to the end of their life and what we do. And that was masters and PhD students, and like yourself, so very intelligent young people, and asked lots of curly questions. So I welcome further questions, do not be shy. I've got a series of slides, but I think if you've got a question on a particular slide, it would be good to just let's get that question dealt with on the slide and then move on. Don't stack them up because there's a lot of information, and as we draw to the end, if there's any, we can go back through the slides as well and have a bit of a look. The reason I was at Purdue, there was a conference on varied asset management in Chicago that I decided to go to. A colleague of mine who I've collaborated with for probably a couple of decades now was going and said, "Oh Ross, can you come and give us a presentation at the conference?" And then, because I was there, it's a long way to go to a 3-day conference. The people who were organising it were the senior staff at Purdue, so we went over there and spent a couple of 3 days there, and then did a little bit of spent some time in LA, spent some time in New York, so it wasn't all work. Don't get that impression. What else? So I've got a couple of websites. Inframanage.com is one that we'll keep bringing back to. Inframanage.com is a site I have that I just put up masses of information about infrastructure management. The idea behind it, when I was a much younger engineer, New Zealand was quite a bit poorer than it is now, and you just couldn't get your hands on resources pre-internet. And so I got into the habit of anything I could get my hands on, lead up in folders and building a resource base. You literature review, if you like, and I've never stopped doing that professionally. But I'm also I've done work up in the Philippines, and I've been to China and India and places like that, and up into the Pacific Islands. And there are engineers in places like that who are trying to do the very best job they can, but don't have the resources. And so what I wanted to do is put 3 resources up that somebody could have a look at and go, "Oh yeah, that's how you do that," without never having to get to an international conference or something like that. So that's Inframanage. I have my own war infrastructure, which is just got my consulting stuff. There's a climate adaptation platform which Dr. Henning and myself collaborate on. Has more information about adapting case studies and adapting climate to engineering as well, and asset management. And I'm now a professional teaching fellow here at Auckland University. So that's me. The thing with this discipline of infrastructure asset management is it's been around since the mid-1990s. There's a growing resource base. I just grabbed, that was just all the stuff that was on our shelves, and that A and Cam work one, that's from Kansas. The state of Kansas paid for a manual. There's quite a few Australian ones, there's a heap of New Zealand ones. So there's a lot of technical stuff around now, individual manuals, there's the ISO standards. So just be aware. Practice notes, industry templates, so different industries have, electrical have their own set of standards and guidelines, civil have their own set of standards and guidelines, oil and gas have a different set as well. So there's stuff around if they're looking for it, plus the ISO, various ISO standards for asset management, for risk, particularly the ones we use there, and then specific industry guides as well. So it's not a field now, it used to be, but there wasn't much around it. There's quite a lot of stuff available. Up on the one thing that's been interesting around the world is while there's information in these guides and manuals, there's very, very little information out there. You can go onto like Auckland City or public authority websites and you can find an asset management plan, lots of them up in the public sphere, but not a lot of explanation about why they're the way they are and what's in them and for what reason. So a few years ago, with the permission of Christchurch City Council, I went just did a page turn on their asset plan, the community facilities one, because it included buildings, so I've covered quite a breadth of asset types. And it just said, hey, this is why this is here, this is why this is here. So that's a resource if you're working your way through an asset plan and for an assignment or something like that, and you go, oh, what on earth is this? Why is this piece of information in this plan? Can't understand it. That was an attempt just to take people through that. My previous year at Auckland University lectures, some of them are up on information.com. It's reasonably well referenced, so you can just use the search and you'll pick up most of the relevant stuff. This is a diagram that Dr. Henning drew up a few years ago. One of the things about infrastructure asset management, when we started, it was mainly civil engineers, and we were busy trying to solve how we've got older assets, pipes, bridges, roads, sometimes buildings that are getting towards the end of their life. We never have enough money, so what do we do first, what do we do second, what do we do third? What has become very apparent over the last 30 odd years is that infrastructure asset management is multidisciplinary. And so you get the IT, obviously, there's data analysis, there's legal ramifications, contract accounting, risk management, strategic and tactical planning. You need to know about people the minute you start dealing with things that deliver services to people, so that's why you have the sociology in there. And civil engineering is only just one little part of it. So it is something, being civil engineers, of course, we believe we knew how to do everything, so we had a go at it, but on reflection you would say, hey, you do need to follow other disciplines that keep up economists and accountants and things like that. I now know far more about economics and accounting than I ever wanted to, so I'm a civil engineering career, but there you go. So just be aware with the practice of infrastructure management and with writing asset plans that there's a multidisciplinary game, and you will have to interact with other disciplines and also understand other disciplines. One of the real light bulb moments I had a few years ago was I was sitting in a room and half of it was engineers and half of it was accountants, and they were talking about depreciation. And they both had different definitions for it. So they were using the same word, but talking about completely different things. So oh, hang on, guys, ladies, let's just stop. What do you guys mean by depreciation? The accountants say, with this and the engineers, no, that's not what we mean. And then the actual discussion started because, the minutes sort of showing I even talk about depreciation and everybody's in agreement, which they weren't. So different professions use the same words differently. And you need to be awake to that. I'm sure you find that when you look at textbooks and things like that sometimes. So infrastructure asset management is also these levels of practice. You get information flows from operational up to strategic. There's these three main levels, and so just to define, operational is working on something to deliver. So if it was a water supply, so it's working on the pipes or the water treatment plant, or if it's a road operation, the guys are out fixing the potholes or doing the, I think in Auckland there's always this debate about how many traffic cones there are. That's all operational stuff. The signaling is operational stuff on roads. The fixing problems day to day, that's all operational. And then you come up to tactical, which is the medium-term planning, so 1 year to 10-year planning, how you're going to replace stuff, what is going to be optimal in terms of the replacement, those sorts of things. Asset management plans fit in that tactical band, and then the strategic stuff is the big picture stuff, and then we're going to talk about that this afternoon. That's the 5 to 50 year stuff. And it's the big direction that we're heading in, and the big investment direction and stuff like that. So what happens is between the different levels there's friction and misinterpretation, and one of the worst things that you see occasionally, but one of the worst things you can do is have a strategic plan and drop straight down to operational. Oh, we're going to do this, but we're going to fix this footpath or something like that, or cycleway. Just a small example, occasionally I get called in to audit service delivery contracts. So I'll pick up the asset plan and go, what have they said they're trying to deliver? And then I'll pick up the contract and see what the contract says they're delivering. And the way that these things are written is the guy who's writing the contract picks up the previous one, somebody in to do this and puts it out to the marketplace. And he doesn't necessarily refer to the asset plan, because that might have been done in a different cycle. And quite often, not always, but quite often you'll find there's a disconnect between what the asset plan says that you're going to be doing to deliver service or service levels and what the contract says. Now, in that case, what service levels do you think are going to get delivered? The ones that are in the contract or the ones that are in the planning document?
In the contract.
Exactly. Contractors are not stupid, generally. They will deliver what you, if you say you must deliver this and we will pay you for it, that's what they'll deliver. They're going to look at another document and say, oh no, they really want us to deliver. They look at the contract and say, right, they tell us to deliver something. So straight away, your strategic and technical documents might be saying one thing, and operational documents are saying, or contractual arrangements are saying another thing. The contract document will be what gets delivered, which might be quite different from what the organisation says. So that's why the friction between translating between the levels, and it just happens. It's just a gotcha, it's not a perfect world. So something to be aware of. Asset plans, which we're talking about today, is tactical, and the information flows both ways for those documents. So this is another Dr. T diagram, and I think it's a really good one. What's this in Saudi where we came up? It wasn't Saudi. Tens and I were in Riyadh working for the World Bank and needed to explain some of these principles and came up with this. And the thing with any sort of, when you're working on assets, it's very easy just to concentrate on the individual asset. And so when you're talking about systems, not projects, like it's KSA, Canada, Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So it's around, you've got to look at the thing as a whole, not as an individual. Individual assets come down when you're dealing with individual projects, but you really need to look at the whole system because particularly with the big network assets, they're all interrelated, so if something always knocks on to the next thing. Welcome down bottom here, come closer. The reason I have glasses is my eyes are not as good as they used to be when I was as young as you guys, so it's nice to see, what faces. So preserve your assets, think of it as a system, not as an individual asset or project. Look at the whole of life cost across the whole of the system because you'll do things differently, and then also start thinking about sustainable delivery service, sustainable delivery of assets. One of the things it's not just New Zealand, but we'll talk about New Zealand. One of the things we've been doing in New Zealand for quite some time is what we call sweetening assets. So that means we don't spend money now because we want to get the absolute maximum life out of the assets and we want them to have completely broken before we fix them. That lowers service levels and it pushes your money out to the future. And we're starting to get to the point in New Zealand where we can't really sweat our assets much more, and all the bills are coming through, and then you go, we can't afford it. And there's a principle in asset management, and it's again up on management, something Dr. Henry's been quite involved with. It's called the Dayton water model, and it's the fundamental theory of it is that good assets cost less. So if you maintain your assets overall in a good condition and don't let them get completely wrecked, then it actually costs less than build brand new, do nothing until it's completely broken, build brand. That's an expensive way of managing networks. And this water model, there's a discussion between myself and Derek Rowe, who used to do a lot of work with Thames. It was supposed to be Thames, but he was sick that day. He got some sort of terrible flu or something, travelling internationally. And
H1N1.
yeah. So generally, COVID and H1N1 and swine flu, Thames is normally the one they test first as it comes into the country. I don't know if you hear about it, but anyway, so the thing was that model on how it works is there's like an 8 or 10 minute video on Inframanage that shows how it works, which is just quite a good explanation of the principle of intervening at the right time for asset management. This diagram here is from the ISO. Where is that? There. So at the top, we're going to talk about this afternoon, you've got organisational plans and objectives. That drops down to strategic planning and a strategic asset plan and a policy. Then you drop down to your asset management plans and your asset management system. Now we're not talking system and ISO. They're not talking IT, they're talking a management system. So this is your management system. And then you come down to implementation, managing your portfolio, evaluating performance, and then it loops back around. And this particular diagram is courtesy of WSP, who did it for some national training with engineers in New Zealand, and I took that over and got my hands on it. But it's quite a good diagram. And you've got organisation, strategics, the blue box, asset management systems and strategies is the green box, and then site asset management, quality planning, etc. is the sort of yellow box or orange box. So this is all ISO 55000. It's from figure B1 in the ISO, and it basically just sets out how the whole how everything works together. If you're out in the industry working, you might only be in one part of this. You might only be doing the performance evaluation or the portfolio management or the implementing plans, or you might be up in the policy area or something like that. So that's another thing to watch out for. You can get just in one part, but you do need to know how it all fits together. The days of starting with a blank sheet of paper in New Zealand anyway are pretty much gone. Thames and I, feels that this is in the middle of COVID, so a couple of 3 years ago, we put help the government of the Philippines, again by the World Bank, put in an asset management system for the whole country, starting with 4 pilot agencies. So that's going on in countries up in Asia and the Pacific still, and undoubtedly will in Africa as well, but certainly in New Zealand, pretty much most of that planning is in place. We have another document that was developed in Australasia called International Infrastructure Management Manual. It is now all online and it's getting updated. It used to be updated every 5 years, and I was a section author of one of the sections of that, and some of my team were section authors of other sections of it. Now it's continuous, so I update something every year pretty much online. Thames, has the university got that access to that online version?
We used to, but we've got access to the Apoko guide.
Alright, yeah.
So the students need free membership from Apoko, and then they can. Who joined up as student members for Apoko? Hands up. 1, 2.
One behind you, 3.
4, 5. Right, this is free, and it's good stuff. It's good for you.
So the really interesting thing about the Apoko guide, I helped write the leadership section of that, and again one of my staff wrote one of the other sections, is in New Zealand over the last few years we've been looking at Māori knowledge and ways of doing things and saying, hey, how does that fit together with Western, with British colonial, if you like, methodologies. And I think we're well ahead of most countries in terms of doing that. The way I've ended up looking at, so I did an awful lot of work in databases and data systems in the early days of my career, and the way we've been doing things over here is one database, one data knowledge system. And with all the Māori knowledge of particularly river forms and land use and history and ways of doing things, I've just kind of looked at it as another knowledge base that I really don't have very much access to. And if you're dealing with data and somebody says, hey, there's this fantastic database over here, but you can't get into it. You think, well, how do I get into it? Actually, it would be good if I could run a query on both databases and see what's happening. See how because the two data sets will, in theory, will always produce a better or a more rounded result or a more holistic result than one database. And so that's what the Apoko guide is about. It's about having, and it will continue to expand and continue as well as online. It's about, hey, how can you take one way of doing things, one set of data, how do you merge it with another way? And what you find out, particularly in tribal societies, is they're multi-generational. You know, they're thinking about their family and their tribe over multiple generations. Well, peaceful asset management does, and looking after long-run assets. You know, dams, a big dam can be a 1,000-year asset, so it's a multi-generational asset. Come down the front, somewhere. My eyes are not so good, I like to see faces. I see a blurred eyes. Anyway, so the thing is, it's free, it's worth having a look at. It's right at the cutting edge of that sort of thinking at the moment, internationally. It will expand. I think it's something that as a world we're going to do more. But I think also just this idea that there can be more than one set of ways of doing things and one set of knowledge is really valuable. One of the very cool things that's happening in New Zealand as well is, obviously many of you have started life in places other than New Zealand, or families that came from places other than New Zealand originally. You get all this different thinking coming in. That's what immigration does, and you get. Let's take an example. China is a country that's had a civilization that's 3,000 or 4,000 years old. It has a different way of thinking about things than British colonialists. Hey, let's take as many countries as we can. Just start from a different base of thinking. And the same with the Philippines, the same with India, and the same with the Pacific Islands. There's just different evolutions of society, if nothing else, that then bring a different set of ideas in. And those ideas, particularly when you're looking after long-run intergenerational assets, are all valid and can bring a real perspective. And we're going to look at some of that this afternoon. So IIMM sits under the ISO. So the ISO, in terms of document hierarchy, is the international standard. That's the primary document. This one is it's not a standard, it's a toolkit. A Popo Guide is a toolkit that sits under the standard, but you can see with IIMM there's this understand your requirements, strategic direction, levels of service, future demand, which we're going to talk about after this lecture, collecting information, monitoring condition performance. Down the bottom here, this is what Dr. Henning and I suggested, and they had a committee, and I don't know if you've ever been involved in manual staff committees. Very hard to introduce new things, but we suggested that they, in New Zealand we don't talk a lot about safety and security because it's not a huge issue here. In Saudi Arabia it was. They have a very good awareness of the neighbourhood they live in. In America after 9/11, Homeland Security, every single water and wastewater treatment plant had their fences around it and lockable gates and only authorised personnel allowed and all that sort of thing. So countries, one can only imagine what safety and security is like in Israel at the moment, for argument's sake, or Iran. So the thing is, depending on where you are in the world, there's other layers that you might want to consider in your asset management planning. We're particularly slack on that in this country because we don't have a lot of threats. Cyber security, obviously, a bit of an issue if you've got programmable logic controllers and IT systems that are opened up to, shall we say, people that might have less than pure intent. That is becoming a growing issue in that safety and security. You don't really want somebody turning off Auckland's water plant and then saying, could we leave the address where you're sending bitcoins before we turn back on you? They would will, I would think, if they did that. You would go, well, how much and where? And so, well, the deposit's going to be, $20 million or $50 million this week. There's that, right down to very practical systems engineering, electronics is around internet security for asset systems. Imagine if somebody, for argument's sake, got hold of the traffic light security system in Auckland and started flicking switches randomly and said, here's the address to send our bitcoins to. We're just going to turn lights on and off all across Auckland until we pay out. So that's I'm not suggesting any of you try to do that, by the way. I'm just saying these are the sorts of things we have to think about in the safety and security realm. Life cycle planning is the middle of it. Risk, operational, capital investment, decision methods and how you finance it, and these are the enablers. So your teams, your plans, your management systems, so that's now you're getting into some of the IT, your information systems where you're holding all the information, service delivery models, etc. What was that one? Audit and improvement. Now, the interesting thing is, a couple of years ago, it was before COVID, I was at an American conference in Kansas City, Missouri, American Public Works Association. I spent probably the first 10 years of my consulting career working on, I was very good at these asset management information systems and tools, and I'm still at a team of 3 full-time staff that support clients with that. And so we've come a long way down the road in 20 years of using those in New Zealand. I was at this American conference and they just started, and I went to this paper from a system vendor who was basically saying, look, buy our system and all of your asset management will be solved and fixed. I was sitting listening to this. In the end, I got up and left the room because I thought, I'm a visitor. If I hear too much more of this, I'm going to be quite tempted to stand up and say this is absolute rubbish or something stronger, use some stronger words. That's not polite, that's not respectful, I will just leave the room. So in America at the moment, I know for a fact they've got vendors running around saying, you know, buy our system, buy our software, and all your asset management will be done, you will be in paradise, so all your problems will be solved. That is not reality. And the reason I'm telling you about this is you will run into it somewhere. There is always an IT system vendor who is very keen to sell their product to you, who will promise all sorts of things that may or may not be true in the long course of time. But they have, systems definitely have their place and are certainly very, very powerful tools, but they sit within a much wider framework of what asset management is. Another WSP diagram. We're going to be talking about this bit of it this afternoon when we talk about asset management policy and strategy. It's all about, at the end of the day, the outcomes that the business needs. You then have asset performance, cost, risk that gets you to those outcomes. You've got these enablers. Now, the really interesting thing in this is, I'm going to tell you this right now, we are so short of people that all of you are going to probably retire very rich and very fulfilled because you'll be doing the work of 10 people or 3 or 4. You will be working hard, but there's going to be so many opportunities. Okay, we've got to see all the value in retirement. And I know about, because I'm 59 in a few weeks' time, and depending on who you read, I'm either the last year of baby boom or the first year of Gen X. I like to think of myself as transgen, because I have characteristics of both generations. But so in 6 years' time, I'm 65, and in 6 years' time, in theory, all of the baby boomers, which is a massive population cohort in New Zealand, will be retired, and that means all the engineers who are in senior management roles at the moment and things like that are all coming up to retirement. And we simply are short on people, and that's why I've said publicly several times at major conferences, I welcome anybody who chooses to come to New Zealand to help us with this problem. We're very welcome, you know, and there will be major opportunities, and there will be opportunities for advancement in your careers much faster than in terms of my career that advanced simply because there's huge gaps opening up in the system. And so, yeah, that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is that you're going to be working very hard, and as we already are, and that there will be, probably for the next couple of decades, we're going to be struggling on the people front. So the good news is you're in an exciting area with massive opportunities, with opportunities to do extremely well. Obviously, you've got to keep thinking and learning and growing the whole time. But we have a major issue with lack of people. But issues are opportunities. Always in engineering, this is terrible, right? What's the opportunity to do something here? To think differently, to bring some other experience, to bring some other thinking, to, obviously AI is going to come into it, but AI doesn't build roads typically. or water pipes that can do help in some of the decision making. And then down the bottom is funding and building. The interesting thing in New Zealand, we're having, if you follow the papers all the moment, you would think we're completely running out of money and have no money for we're falling off the edge of the world. We have very bad impressive media in New Zealand, so try not to read them very often, but we have the ability as a country, if we wanted to go and borrow $100 billion tomorrow, we could. So what we've got on at the moment is, and you see in the papers, is we're having a little bit of a public discussion about who is going to pay. Not can we pay, but who. So quite a different issue. But the way it's presented is there's no money and how do we do anything? Well, yeah. The reason I know that with some confidence is the New Zealand government a couple of weeks ago put out a bond issue for, I don't know, it was $10 billion worth of bonds that is normal running the government, and it was oversubscribed by 4 times. So they were offered $40 billion worth of bonds from the international market, and they took 10. So lots and lots of people happy to leave to New Zealand because prosperous, hard-working, intelligent, safe, nobody's firing missiles at us yet, those sorts of things. Good economy, good agriculture, safe and pay our bills. So safe country to lend to. So the issue is going to be people, and the issue is going to be experienced people, and getting on and doing some projects. Right at the moment, everything's on hold for 3 months because of the new government. That's a very short-term thing. When I first started doing asset management, I was doing a lot of civil construction and project building and building water pipelines and water treatment plants and wastewater plants and putting various assets in, and prior to that I built roads and things like that. And so the boss said to me, he said, Ross, you probably know as much about this asset management rubbish as anyone. Can you do the plans and stuff like that? And I thought, right, okay, do these plans and then I'll go back to the real work, which for me meant building stuff at that time. What we found out, because I've been doing this ever since, so I've been doing this now for probably 30 years. I've never got back to building stuff. But, and this is the inside of the lighthouse, just in case you want. Nick from the internet, I did go and, well, try and find it another time and go, oh yeah, who did it? Anyway, it's a spiral of understanding. So you make lots and lots and lots of assumptions the first time you write a plan, and then you start collecting information to resolve those assumptions or running models or whatever, or you get different data points and different experiences. So it becomes a spiral in understanding. It's a multi-decade spiral. You can do it at different levels, so you can start at a very basic level of asset planning and it gets more and more advanced. Some of the stuff that Dr. Hean's been doing in terms of pavement deterioration modelling is up at a more advanced level of that, of asset management, but there's a sort of, I guess, a graduation of practice between that. People who know me know this is one of my favourite quotes. Albert Einstein, fantastic quote for engineers, because he doesn't give you the parameters. Okay, so what does as simple as possible mean? And what does but not simple mean? Because if you're like me, you want, oh yeah, okay, I want maths, come on. Give me the business stuff, but it makes you think. And in your assignments and in the stuff that you're doing and right through your engineering careers, here's the key thing. Any fool can make things more complicated. It takes genius to make things simpler. And the people who make things really simple, we think of one way or another as geniuses. To make things simple, you need to understand them. So it's very easy to come in, look at something and go, oh, we can do this, add this, bolt on this, bang, 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 and we end up with these systems, processes, ways of doing things that become just more and more complex. Complexity in engineering is you're on the road to disaster because it becomes so complex that nobody understands it. And if you don't understand it, you don't know where your risks are, you don't know where your weaknesses are, you don't know where your holes are, and sooner or later it falls over. So that's the challenge in your studies, but also in your professional lives. When you run into things, always ask yourself this: can I make this simpler? Because simple is efficient and simple is understandable. Simple is lasts. You get a really simple delivery system or IT system or process or whatever it is that you're doing. Everyone goes, oh, well, I understand that, we can make that work. The trouble is we all like to add complexity. I could just do this, I think. And so we had something, and somebody else says, oh my God, I could do this, and all of a sudden start to build complexity again. So, something to remember. It's got stuff to do with asset management, because I'm going to show you the diagrams when I ran into this slide I taught, develop. But whatever you do in life, through the whole rest of your career, if you keep asking yourself this question now and again, you will be a very, very good practitioner of whatever you do. Albert Einstein, who knew? So what I did, I won. So this was a conference that was in New Zealand that was run by the Australians, and I won the prize for the best asset management paper. Now, I don't know, those of you who know about cricket and things like that, you can't imagine the Australians saying to you, oh, well done, New Zealand, you know, that was a great game. But that's just not part of the Australian psyche. Okay, so the people who were supposed to win this paper were Australians, and somehow managed to win it. So I felt quite good about winning it. I knew it would never happen again, so they'll change the rules to make sure I can win that. But anyway, what I wanted to do, because we're getting all these manuals and all these different things, I said, well, let's get to the heart of this. What is actually asset management? How can I explain it very simple? So, down the bottom, and different parts of the world, so the Americans call them asset inventories, we call them asset registers, same word, different, same thing, different word. You need a list or what are you managing? What have you got? What are your assets? They can be in a specific, really wide asset group, could be across a whole network, could be across a whole country, for argument's sake. Over on this side, you have the things that are going to change things. So levels of service, future demand, risk, and climate adaptation sustainability is actually a subset of risk when we look at it. They all feed in to managing the assets. So I've got these assets, they all have a life cycle. We operate them, you maintain them, you renew, replace, rehabilitate them, you add new assets and you dispose of them. And then all of that you can run through models and optimise. Depending on how much information you've got. You come over here and you've got financials. Now, when I was a young engineer, I was building stuff. And so all I knew about was expenditure. I need some money for maintenance operations, some money for renewals, capital budget, and somewhere along the line somebody introduced this weird voodoo accounting thing about depreciation. But anyway, they're on the expense line. I had no idea. I worked for a local authority. What's revenue? It just turned up, we spent money. But there's a whole other side of asset management, which is how do you pay for this stuff? And fees, charges and tariffs, loans, grants and funding. In the US, in particular, they have municipal bonds, so they issue bonds, long-term 30, 40, 50-year bonds to fund infrastructure. I've talked to a few Americans about them. They have good points and bad points, because there's this whole market where the council, the municipalities get rated for their financial safety, security, people looking in, and that rates how much the bonds cost. So it's a whole lot of discipline around that. What happens is when you do your asset management, you look at the service levels and you find out you're not actually delivering all the stuff that the legislation or the rules say you should. So there's a gap. And societies always want more, especially Western societies, so we want a different. They want, so here's the first thing, people want more, but they don't want to pay for it. If that's the news flash, well, there you go. Future demand, and we're going to talk about, I've got the next whole lectures on demand, so I won't dig into it too much, but demand changes, and demand can go up, more people coming, or people could be leaving the area, demand can go down. Some of that can sometimes be as a result of climate change, or natural hazard, big earthquake or volcano will certainly change where people live. And then you've got risk, and you've got sustainability. So what you have is you have a whole heap of gaps that are going to feed into life cycle management, feed into financials. So what happens is you feed all those through and you come over again, so actually now we understand it a bit better. We need more money, almost always. And the people down here who need to go, we're going to get a whole lot less money because now they're very expensive. We don't know how we're getting all the money you're getting already. And we need more money for coffees and less money for infrastructure. And that's a very valid point. Now, there's a point of argument there. Coffee is more important than infrastructure. And so what they do, and I'm telling you this because you come around into it somewhere in your career, they'll come back, the people that run this, and they say, look, can you have a look at this? It tells me you're going to cut money out of the system. And being an engineer or manager, you'll go, oh, okay. But if you've got your service levels right, and then if you've got the best prediction you've got of demand, then what they're actually asking you to do is take more risk. And the risk might be deferring a replacement of a major bridge. So Auckland Harbour Bridge is starting to get into that category. The Require Road Bridge, which is 1 mile long, what's that, 1,600 metres, longest bridge in New Zealand. They've now got informal weight restrictions. They've got weight restrictions. They've got live weight barriers, and they've just put a great big inspection area for heavy trucks. And they've said all the heavy trucking guys, they're inspecting it almost continuously. They're drone flying every month because it's right towards the end of its life. It splits the South Island in two if it goes, and you get a really heavy truck across it that could break it. So you can manage the risk, but at the end of the day, it's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to replace that bridge, and nobody wants to spend money just yet. So they're trying to manage the life cycle as best they can. But generally when people say, hey, we want a whole lot less money, what they're doing is they're saying, we want to take more risks. But the trouble with infrastructure risk is not many people understand it very well. Us as engineers and infrastructure managers are not very good at explaining it to people. When we do explain it to them, they say, oh, you're being too conservative, that's the word, you're wanting more money for your projects. And then when things does break, or do break, they say, oh, you never told us. Real problems with that. And you need to be aware of it, because if you assume that risk without saying anything, it's your problem. If you notify the governments and the management levels of your organisation, say, look, you're taking on a huge risk here, and if you do, here's the likely consequences, then that's somebody else's problem. It will also be your problem when it breaks, but that's another story. So, what are asset plans? Structured plans to present information about managing infrastructure. The content and format of them has been developed continuously over the last 25 years. We started the first ones in 1996, so we're now in the 11th cycle. And we're going to talk about that this afternoon. But very briefly, the cycles of the AMPs are usually tied to political cycles, because the money for major assets is always a political question. So in New Zealand, when I was in the States, they said, hey, we've read all the stuff, and we can't for the life of us understand why you do this stuff every 3 years. So, we don't trust our politicians very much, so we have a 3-year political cycle. Ours is 4, we should be doing everything in 4 years, yeah. In the UK, it's right, they have the 5-year congresses in China. So you match up the cycle of the asset planning with the political cycle of the country. Up in the Pacific, they have 5-year strategy plans they produce. US is 4 years, UK is 5 years. So just lining up the political cycle wherever you are in the world. Philippines drivers take a 60-year presidential cycle. So maybe they'll be updating plans every 6 years. And it's the next step to the next way of doing this sort of stuff now. From that, they are actually a business case for investment. And so with the transport ones in New Zealand now, they do actually have a business case component built into them. And they cover a 3 to 10 year period. We also in New Zealand have a thing called the infrastructure strategy, which is a 30-year, so it's looking at a long way. The reason we now have these 30-year documents is because the asset owners who didn't want to spend the money were pushing all the expenditure out to the year 11 or 12, so they could pretend that they didn't have much to do. So you come back to the engineer, say, hey, could you get, would that asset last 12 years instead of 40 years? Oh, yeah, probably. Oh, good, can we pull the money out of 12 years, because then we don't have to raise the rates or the charges or whatever. So the 30-year one deals with that. And it's just to make sure that you're managing financially sustainable. Now, the problem is that despite the best efforts of engineers and asset managers and asset planners, the people that vote the money can choose to ignore the advice, which is what's been happening here in New Zealand. And it is a tactical plan, it's not a strategy plan, it's not an operational plan, it's good fits. Really good framework for putting this information out. But there's too many eyebrows in that they've actually just become quite an expensive doorstop for keeping the door open, or they're sitting on the shelf and nobody reads them. So they do have to be implemented, and they always contain multiple assumptions. So you've got to be really clear about your assumptions and what the impact of those assumptions are if they don't come out the way that you think they're going to. So they're a document you have to keep coming back to because you need to keep testing your assumptions. Sometimes societies say not doing that anymore, so something will come out completely. Or hey, we need to do something a whole lot more thoroughly, so like the Americans after 9/11, where they said we're going to spend billions of dollars on security type assets. So just what I wanted to talk to you a bit about was just this side of the diagram, the service levels, growth, risk, lifecycle management, and how they, and we'll start with the asset inventory. So how do they fit together? This is, describing them, summarising information, and then how it builds that information. I also teach down at the Tiger College where they've got not a master's class, it's like a level 6. Being tech. And one of they actually have to create a little asset register and then write a plan on, so it's a really practical sort of a course at that level. And we say, like if you're there are some guys there that are working in a hotel or vertical industry, so hey, just grab a electrical pattern and do the asset register on that. We had one guy a couple of years ago, he owned 4 cars. Asked me how somebody that was 23 years old owns 4 cars, but there we go. And so he did an asset inventory on his 4 cars, and he looked at the condition of his engines and his upholstery and his paintwork and his tyres, and at the end of it, he said, I need to do some asset disposal. I had 2 cars too many, and 2 of them are coming up for really major work, and I don't want to be the owner of them. So in his case, he came back and reported it and said, I'm fixing up this car and where's all my maintenance and this one I'm selling these to such to be the person that buys them because they're both going to break within about 6 months. Okay. So the thing is, if you want, what I'm telling you this is you can do it on very small groups of assets or the entire Auckland transport or water network or the whole country. You do still need some information. What have I got? What sort of condition is it in, and how's it performing? And we'll use the car example. If the engine is in very poor condition and just broke, then it's a very expensive piece of decorative art. If it's not going anywhere, it's not performing, it's not fulfilling its purpose. When you dig into it a little bit more, you then go, hey, well, what bit of the engine broke, or if it's a public asset, maybe it's a major bridge that breaks, you start looking at what's the really important parts of your network. If it breaks, does it take a whole lot of other stuff out? One of the, and this is a part of the lifelines thinking, engineering lifelines, because electricity, for argument's sake, if the electricity supply into Auckland broke for this minute, unless this building's got a pretty decent generator, the lights would go out and we would have to slice it. So there's some really basic infrastructure that provides services for everything else. Service levels, and particularly for large networks, are almost often mandated or legislated. So you can go through and say, well, what's actually specified, or they're based on development of or delivery over a very long period of time. And so the first question is, if you've got some legislation that says you must do something, are you doing it? Have you met those requirements? Then what service levels are changing because expectations go up. And if once you've done those two pieces of analysis, that'll tell you where your gaps are and then what you need to do to invest to change those gaps. Okay, and that might be smoothness of the road or travel time, reliability of the service level or accident. The road design, is it causing particular intersections in New Zealand? Are they causing accidents just because of poor design? Water supply will be the quality of the water supply, the pressure, the leakage, all those sorts of things. Wastewater, it's around, is it flowing into the nearest stream or does it come and get treated? And is the treatment at the specified level, the permit level? So, and that piece of analysis on its own can take quite a bit of time. And sometimes you need to go and consult with the public and say, hey, are you still happy with these? But for certain water and wastewater now, almost everything's in the legislative and agreed. One of my team just recently did an audit of the council wastewater plants, smaller council, how whole we small towns. I don't think one of them was meeting its agreed requirements of these plants. So all discharging illegally, essentially. So then you can go back to the council and say, well, you need to do something about this reasonably soon. To which the answer is, oh, we can't afford it. So, well, the choice is going to be fixing your assets up or you're going to be paying fines and fixing your assets up. So, your choice. So, yeah, that's how these things work. And so that's service levels. The stuff that catches you out is the ones you miss, but you don't think about it. And all of a sudden you find you're not delivering the service level because you didn't think about something. In terms of demand, what is changing, what is growing, what is declining? And we've got a whole lecture on the next lecture as well, so we'll dig into that in a lot more detail there. But the thing about demand is it's never static. It's always changing, and sometimes it can change quite abruptly. So it's all those things, population decline, natural hazards, climate hazards, drought, lack of water resources, the war going on, and displacement of people can change. Assets are there for people at the end of the day. So there's no people there, those assets are redundant. The other thing around demand is capacity, and are you using capacity? So a lot of assets that we've got deployed in New Zealand have some capacity. When you're sitting on the motorways in Auckland and there's jokes going about this New Zealand's largest parking lot because you're not going anywhere, that's a capacity issue, or a peak capacity issue. Really interesting, I was actually up in Manila when COVID hit, and when I went up there was one case of COVID in the whole of the Philippines. It was a family that had come across from Wuhan. Well, I said, is it going to say it's no, it's good, one case, it's a big country. Manila has 23 million people, lots of chances. And if you've ever been to Manila, it's a very, very congested city. You can go nowhere for 30 or 40 minutes, or maybe 30 or 40 metres or 50 metres. By the end of the week, we didn't even make it. It came in on Saturday. It was supposed to be there the next Saturday. On Thursday, they all next to go home. Nothing's happened. And that city that normally you could walk faster than you could drive, the roads were completely empty and it shut down. And you could have bowled a bowling ball down the main road in the middle and you wouldn't have hit anything. And the driver from the hotel was stopping at traffic lights, which was very good of him. But there was nobody coming. We could have just gone through all the red lights and wouldn't have hit anything. And so capacity is still about people. The same roads are 4 or 5 lanes wide each way, but there's only on them because something else has taken priority. obviously when everything got back under control, those roads back to where they are, because I'm pretty sure it might have been a city that was built for 5 or 7 or 10 million people, it's got double that, so true. So the thing is, that's about using capacity up, but then you can work out once you know capacity how you're going to meet that demand, and obviously doing more of the same is sometimes not the way to meet demand, particularly in roading. Sometimes you go, actually we need a road system, or we need a bus rapid transport system, or a light rail, or whatever it is. Need to move demand or capacity. And we obviously here in Auckland been having that debate for feels like 60 years was the first time the light rail system was so it's been a long debate about light rail in Auckland. City railway obviously not far from finished, I think, so that's going to help a little bit. You do also need trains that don't break down, so that's a whole other story. You have rails, but you still need trains that work. So. But the thing is, what you're trying to say, what new assets do I need, and what do I need to dispose of, and what's changing, and where do I need different assets, and all those sorts of things. Risk is, I've done lectures for here for Dr. Henning on risk, 2 or 3 hours. There are a lot of risks, particularly when you're dealing with network assets, but what you're really trying to work out is what they are and what's changing. So same with service levels, same with demand. There's how you're managing or mitigating. You can't. So finally, the example, Lake Taupo. Who's been down to Lake Taupo? Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It's one of the 10 largest volcanoes in the world. Okay? And it's got a very, very long theoretical return period. It's hundreds of thousands of years. So the chances of it letting go again while you're there are very, very slim. But if it did, then we can't mitigate that. And Yellowstone in the US is the same. There's massive big volcanoes. Some of the big volcanoes in Indonesia, or the Philippines or Japan. If you get a really big volcano, let's go. As engineers, we can't do very much about that, but we can be ready to deal with the aftermath of it. Put it to you this way, one of the big 10 let's go, warming is not going to be our problem at that point. Okay, because they take cubic kilometres of ash and dust up into the stratosphere, which cools everything down. So there'd be a lot of need for heating systems at that point, as cooling systems. Anyway, so you need to know what risks you can mitigate and what you can't. Some of the really big natural disasters, you can just try and build stuff properly. Earthquakes being one of those. Risk financing and insurance. At the moment, international insurers are repricing New Zealand. They've decided we're far more risky than they thought they were, so everybody's insurance premiums are going up, individual as well as public corporate ones, and that will continue for a while, I would think. The good news in this country, because we have public backstop insurance, if you like, is that we can still get insurance. For argument's sake, if you live in California, you can't get earthquake insurance in California. They know there's a massive big earthquake fault line goes past there. It's too expensive to insure. When you've done your analysis, what do you need to do, how do you need to invest, and how do you make those decisions, and how do you advise policymakers, decision makers around risk when it's a topic that people struggle with. So, and even when you've got some of the best models in the world, when you say, look, the model says this big size of displays up, I don't want to know. Yeah, that's fine. So you can do your job well, and your decision makers can still just not want to know. Or even worse, they go, I talked to Fred Barman, and he's told me this is around now, you've got a 5 or 10 or $100 million model, so you're going to get it. Actually, Fred's my information source, and we'll go with what Fred says. That happens. You've just got to do your job well on that. In terms of lifecycle management, you've got to link service levels, demand, and risk and gaps. Current and future predictions of operations and maintenance. Same with asset renewals for rehabilitation of first. All the same thing, just different parts. So With a vertical asset, something like this, you would say you're going to refurbish the electrical or refurbish the building, or rehabilitate it with linear network assets. You talk about renewals. What are your disposal predictions? A really classic example in New Zealand is we've been very good at putting solid waste rubbish dumps in riverbeds and along the coast over the years. And so when you get bigger flows in the rivers, they scour out the wall of the rubbish dump and all of a sudden, or there's been some in New Zealand where we've had coastal erosion. Also, there's a landfill there. So then you've got to move it, and that comes with lots of cost. So that's sort of aftercare type things for asset disposal. Asbestos cement pipe is an ongoing issue. We've got hundreds of thousands of kilometres into this country in the mid-50s, 60s and 70s, and it's a hazardous material in reality. How are you financing your assets? So one of the ideas is you can look at individual assets and then you have a portfolio of assets. So you've got to have strategies around individual assets, classes of assets, and then strategies around the whole portfolio. Sometimes the portfolio, the university has thousands of buildings, individual building will have a strategy for managing that, maintenance, operating it, replacing, refurbishing it, but the whole portfolio, they might go, hey, we're going to keep building over here in this Grafton campus, and we're not going to build over there. But, so there's this idea of managing a portfolio as opposed to managing an individual, and then how across all of that, how do you optimise it? So that's what life cycle is about. One of the things, Dr. Hen had me out to 4 or 5 in the morning last night, so I'm just needing the odd. They kept on, found this Chilean wine that was.
That's not true.
Anyway, my throat was a little bit dry. It isn't tripping. It's the wine is true. That's very nice. So, technical people. I'm a technical person, and I'm going to produce all this technical information and lots of detail, lots of modelling, lots of analysis. And some years ago, a gentleman called Kevin Brady, who was New Zealand's Auditor General, he'd done a lot of work in local government. He used to come to all of these, now long retired, come to all of our conferences. And he stood at one of our conferences and said, look, you guys, I've read all your asset plans. He said, they're marvellous, but I can't understand what you're saying. He said, I got lost in all the technical detail. He said, so what you've got to do, he said, if I can't work it out, nobody else is going to be able to work it out. So he said, what you've got to do, and this is, again, some studying life tips in engineering, you do need to do the technical analysis, but then you need to step up out of it and look right across it and say, well, what am I trying to say with all this? Or what is all this analysis telling me? So most people, at the end of the day, go, did you do the technical analysis right? So we've done these models, we've modelled 155,000 assumptions, we've done all this, we're happy with that. So what's it telling you? What's the one line? You need to spend another $10 billion a year. Okay, that's what we wanted to know. Are you sure about that? Yeah. Okay, we don't have 10 billion, what's the gave you 3? Cool. What would I do first, second, third? So this is the right debate. It's like the really big picture across an entire 300 or 400 page document. How do you get that down to one paragraph? It is hard. Okay, I'm pretty good at it, and I still find it hard. I've done hundreds of them. So I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like if you're doing a thesis, how are you going to summarise that thesis in half a page? And so that's the right debate. And the thing is that it's a learned skill. You can learn it. It's about, if you went out on the internet, it'd be about processing, writing, all those sorts of things, or the university would have resources. But in any of this sort of stuff, the decision makers are not going to read a 400-page technical document. They want to know, have you done a decent analysis, and what's the big picture, and how's it going to impact? So you've got to come out of the detail and provide this. So many people can't do that or don't do it, and then they wonder why they don't get the decisions or management engagement. Half a page or a page, can you get it down to that? So what you need to do is just be talking about what's happening with services on demand, the risks, the life cycle management. Is something big changing in the 10 to 20 years, and then what are the 3 key issues? Get it down to 3. Issue number 1, issue number 2, issue number 3, and I need 10 billion bucks or whatever the number is. Okay. So someone might come back and say, well, hey, great, understand all that, what's number 1? So that's number 1. Okay. And it might take that long to get the funding or the financing for the rest of it. But it's a really great skill to use because somebody's always going to be checking and signing off on work, wherever you work, whatever you do. And this ability to take stuff up out of the technical detail up to this is the key issue, absolutely critical skill. If you can master that or get good at it, okay, you'll never run out of work. So just concluding this, we've been doing it for 20 years in 10 or 11 cycles, lots of guidance available in individual industries. We have templates. Your key inputs are the service levels, future demand and risk. At the end of the day, we hold assets to provide service levels, and we provide service levels because there are people there. So if there's no people, no particular need for service levels, you've got to look at risk and sustainability. If you get it on the wrong side of it, then you end up chasing that as opposed to managing your assets. And when the right answer then got to be implemented, otherwise they're just full stops. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of full stop, which is probably not the best on there. And again, there's resources on implementers.com that you're very welcome to go and have a look at. I will also say, and this has happened on all the previous lectures I've done, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm not that hard to find, I'm very happy to join up with people on LinkedIn, and I put up stuff quite regularly around topics, so if that's a medium that you engage with, yeah, feel free to pop me a LinkedIn request as well. So, any questions? You're talking very quiet. Some of you have nodded occasionally to let me know that you're late, which is fantastic. Dr. Henning.
Yes, sir. Just this is going to be to the benefit of the class for the second assignment, in which they will evaluate an asset management plan, basically assess how good the asset management plan is. Now, we will provide typical requirements that's been published here and there, and you may want to comment on perhaps where to look for that sort of thing. But really, what are some of the big picture things they should be look at to assess how good the asset management plan actually is?
Yeah.
What are you looking
for? So if they wanted to look at that detailed page term, that's talking about good things in asset plans, but really I think that at the ultimate level, and I still see lots of plans around New Zealand, where was my right debate slide there, work out, have a look at the asset plan you're given to assess. They're going to have technical information, hopefully about levels of service, demand, risk, life cycle management, and then a financial projection. So you're looking for all the key components of the plan as anything missing. But then, is there a coherent debate through it that says, hey, this is actually what we need to do? And that is still an area where we fall down as a profession across experienced industry professionals, because I'm sure here at university they give you heaps of time to write things up and think about them, and do your analysis and write your thesis. And it's leisurely. No, I've done masters here, so I do know it's not quite like that. But out in industry, you're always doing the plans in a rush. You're always, the information comes in at the last minute, or somebody gets sick, or they're not there, and you get critical information 2 days before you publish the plan and all those sorts of things. Okay, so that's just reality. So often people don't get that last step where they go up to actually what's this telling me? The critical thing in this plan might be that there's a multi-hundred million dollar investment gap. That's actually true, and this is going to happen because of it. Or we've had to prioritise on just a few assets, and some of the rest of these are going to get in quite poor condition, and the service is going to lower. So that's the stuff you're looking for, because that is almost always the stuff that gets missed because these things come together in a huge rush at the end. Usually with some chief financial officer throwing their toys out of the clock because they need the financials 2 days ago, they still haven't got them, because there's a report going to government or to the minister or something like that. And that's fine. They may normally like to do their work in a considered way as well. So when they're waiting for the engineers, they get quite grumpy about it. So just be aware that the production is often less than optimal in terms of waiting for information and pulling everything together. And that is another way of assessing. Go, oh, okay, where's this information that's out of date that should have been updated? A real easy catch is most asset plans have a valuation in them. You say, what date is that? Oh, the plan's 2023, but the valuation's 2018. Valuations should be updated about every 3 years. So if there's a 2023 plan and the valuation's 2020 or older, somebody's missed. So you're dealing with quite old information. The other thing to look for in them, and this is like a self-auditing thing, really good for your own work as well. I've got one piece of information over here, and generally somebody produced it over there, and I've got the same sort of information over here, but they're different. This one has different numbers. It could be the length and number of the assets, it could be the financials or anything like that. So get used to this internal checking. Hey, this was on page 2, and this is page 100. It's the same information, but there's different numbers. So straight away you're going, well, okay, somebody missed the quality checks, but which one's right? Real easy stuff to look for. And you should be looking for it in your own work too, because you put up a report to me and say, somebody calls me in to review your work, and I go through and I go, Tens over here on page 2 has got these numbers, and on page 100 he's got, well, he's really good. Why is that? I'm confused as to why the numbers are different. So now I've got uncertainty about what I'm looking about as a reviewer or a manager. I've got uncertainty about the quality processes. Not that Dr. Henning ever does this, because he gets me to check his stuff, and then if it's wrong, but anyway. So the thing is, it brings up 2 points. One is get somebody to check, because I've had documents where I've read the jolly thing 10 or 15 times. You stop seeing the issues in it because you've read it so many times that you're so familiar. So always get somebody to check, and if it's a really important thing, get somebody to check it thoroughly, to proof it, to have a look, to ask those sorts of questions. Better to catch them before it goes out and somebody goes, I'd expect better of that person. That's a pretty fundamental. And the mistake isn't because you're no good, it's just you've been in a rush and you've dumped a figure in there and you've dumped a figure in there and that figure, they're the same figure but the different stuff. Those sorts of things. Easy captures for your own work, also for when you're producing stuff for who is employing you, or even if you're in a consulting role and you're checking someone else. Because you don't see it. Like me, I've done hundreds of AMPs. I always, once I get to a certain point, if I've read it too many times, I'll send it to Dr. Henning and say, hey, Tens, can you just have a look at this? Comes back to us. How did you make this mistake?
And often what I see in asset management plans is if you look at that financial statements in the end that summarize everything, is look at how the chapters feed into that, the chapter level of service, the chapter of risk, and actually the magnitude of the problem. Does that stack up to the numbers that they're being asked? If the number 1 or 2 problems would be that all pipes are leaking.
Yeah.
In the financial statement, there's all the money, there's no money in fixing those problems. Well, that begs a question.
Yeah.
So it's simple. It's not that complex. You just have to think what you try to achieve.
So, and this has been in the newspaper, so it's public domain stuff, but over the last summer, Wellington has had a small problem with its water supply, and it was at serious risk of running bits of Wellington out of water, because they had 40% leakage, they had not enough water coming in. I was actually involved in doing some technical reviews on some of that, and the point I made to them about actually getting a little bit more urgency is that, you've got half the world's industries in central Wellington, plus a major hospital, plus Parliament, and all of those, don't want to think about running China or Russia's industry out of water. They might decide we've done it deliberately as opposed to just being slack. We don't really want to have that sort of discussion with the China. We ran out of water because we couldn't be bothered fixing things. It's not the discussion we want to have with the Republic of China or the Russian Federation, or the Americans do that as a small country. But you also don't want to run a major hospital out of water, and you probably don't want to run Parliament out of water either, because when you run out of water, everything closes. I don't know if you've seen, even with the school, you can't keep a school open if there's no water. So it just, I did some technical reviews on my staff and said, look, you need to start prioritising this and this. But they had for a number of years gone, it's not so bad. And so they hadn't been putting the investment figures in whilst the leakage was ramping up, whilst the breaks were they're getting a major break a week in Wellington, sometimes 2 a week. Some of it's earthquake damage. They had an earthquake sequence about 5 years ago, and I think they didn't actually allow for how much damage they'd taken in that earthquake. It wasn't catastrophic at the time. But it's starting to play out now, and they don't have source. One of the options in that case is just chuck more water into the system so you can lose more water and leakage and everything bounces up, but they don't have more sources of water, so they're quite constrained. And you've got, so Cape Town's been Cape Town in South Africa's got a couple of times got very close to day zero, where they were going to completely run the city out of water, and they've had massive conservation measures. Somewhere I was at one of Bogota, one of the South American capitals is in that situation at the moment where they said to everybody, 3-minute showers, please don't shower any longer than that. Don't water anything, minimum water use type stuff. Yeah. Any other, are we time or we've got time for more questions?
We can do more questions after the next lecture, but let's take 10 minutes and then start back here at 4:30.
Right.